The WRX sales are plummeting, and it might just be the worst year ever for the Subaru WRX. And in this video, we're gonna go over the sales, everything you need to know, what this means about the WRX, what this means about new generations, and everything that's happening, and how Subaru is doing overall, which will influence their decision-making about bringing us new cars and doing cooler things. So this might be the most important Subaru video that you've watched today, but I kid you not, it was sunny and not windy like it is right now 45 seconds ago. It's about to storm. This is all storm clouds. So we're gonna drive my VB WRX and try to avoid a thunderstorm that's coming in out of nowhere. Let's get in the car. I kid you not, guys. It was too sunny to film like 3 minutes ago. What in the heck is happening? Don't forget to subscribe, guys, but let's get driving and get out of this storm. Okay, so this is a crazy video. There's genuinely so much to talk about, and we're gonna do it in the least amount of possible time so you guys can digest as much information as possible. Step one, Subaru is coming close to the worst year they've ever had with the WRX ever. And the WRX has been made for so long. For the average owner of the VB WRX, we're probably encroaching on the WRX has been made for longer than those owners have been alive, potentially. Or that's the target market for a lot of them. Now here's the deal. Subaru has always sold over 18,000 WRXs or WRXs and STIs for every year that they've ever produced it. They've had years where they've sold significantly more, like significantly more. That is just the lowest threshold it's ever been. And that's like almost like the stop loss. We don't actually know what that is, but even during the times where we had chip shortages, COVID-19, post-COVID-19, just supply chain shortages, even in those years, they sold more than 18,000 units. Here's the deal. Subaru is currently on target to sell less than 10,000 units in this calendar year. In 2025, likely if trends maintain, Subaru might sell as low as 9,000 or 9,500 WRXs. This would be catastrophic. In June, so 2 months ago, in June, Subaru only sold 350 WRXs. That's down from last year, which was a low. So get this, last year, last June, June 2024, was considered what a light June of sales. Let me get my handy dandy spreadsheet. And last June, they sold 1,332 WRXs. That is nearly 1,000 more, and that was considered newsworthy because that was a pretty light June. Let's go one step further. Hopefully you guys can still see me because it is just getting darker and darker and darker, and it's like 3 o'clock. Wild, I can see blue sky. If we look at January 1st to June 30th of 2024, compared to January 1st and June 30th of 2025, basically the first half of this year and the first half of last year, that paints even more of a stark difference. Last year, in that first 6-month period, 9,295 WRXs were sold. And in that same period this year, 6,431 WRXs were sold. Now, what's important there is that represents basically before we've had the fall down in sales. The last 3 months have been the worst sales months out of this year by a large margin. The majority of the first 4 months, the sales were down, but not terrible, which means that we're in the hole here. Here's where it gets interesting. Subaru, all told, relative to all other car manufacturers, are actually doing pretty well this year. They're selling their cars pretty damn well. And one step further, the Forester, and we'll get into why this is important, but the Forester is selling almost better than it ever has. Subaru has come out and said that the Forester has what's called a 25-day supply, which is up from, or which is down from a 50 to 60-day supply. The 25-day supply means that Subaru only has 25 days worth of sales of Foresters at their current sales rate, which is super low, meaning that they can't have any hiccups in manufacturing because if they have a hiccup, they don't have extra time. When you consider a lot of the complete models or major assemblies are coming from overseas on a boat, that's a pretty big deal. Most companies do 50 to 90 days supplies of vehicle based on their sales rate or their outbound rate of vehicles. What that really means, I mean, we can basically just guess that that means that Forester's selling at 2 times what their projected margins are. Now, what does that mean for the WRX? That means that the WRX, as the Forester closes in performance, unfortunately, that's something that I have to actually legitimately say, the WRX is now fighting people moving to the Forester. You're also seeing a global change in people wanting more SUVs, so that's not that uncommon. But Subaru is now crediting the Forester sales and potential lack of WRX inventory to why we're seeing low sales. This is an interesting statement because a lot of this you can cross-reference against other things they've said and just posted market available cars. And we know a couple things. WRX availability isn't as down as you might think. There are enough WRXs available to basically increase the sales by 2 or 3 times and still be relatively fine, which means that they could go from their 350 units likely up to 1,000 units and not really have a problem. Now their sales would still be down, but I don't think, based on that basic investigation, because data is data and you can look at it, I don't think it's a lack of WRXs. Now certainly some people have said that there are not WRXs around them, but I can go to a dealer near me and see 10 WRXs that have been there for the last 3 weeks. Now, part of me thinks it's kind of cool that very few WRXs are being sold because it makes these cars more elusive, but here's the deal. It really, really hurts us for a couple of reasons. One, as somebody that's in the aftermarket community, it means there's continuously less incentive to develop parts for these cars. Developing parts for cars is very, very expensive, and you've got to sell them. If there's less people to sell them, it's riskier and riskier to develop parts. And if you guys know my company, JXR Performance, I do a lot of custom parts for people. People want a part, and I figure out how to get it made for them. And then sometimes if it's a part that I can tool and sell to everybody, I do that. But that's how all of the parts for my business basically have come to fruition. I can't do that if only 350 WRXs a month are coming out onto the market. And I'm not creating $1,000, $1,500, $2,000 assemblies. So there's something to be said there. On top of that, when you think about Subaru coming near to 2 things, the next generation of WRX, and wow, it is pouring, and the potential of an STI, we kind of have a bigger problem. If sales are not just declining, but plummeting and almost non-existent, how does Subaru justify taking a risk on making something more exciting, right? If people aren't buying the existing thing, why would they risk it further? And we might be even seeing that where Subaru has basically publicly said they were leaning in to solve our Forester supply issue, which means their focus is going to how do we make more Foresters? As a WRX owner, excited about potentially getting something with either more power or a better transmission or an STI, not super exciting to hear that the next year plus 2 years is going to be focused on upping the global manufacturing line for Foresters. If you guys could see how hard it's raining, it's hard to tell here. Maybe you can see in the back window. This is wild. I don't even know if you guys can hear me. I literally have to hold the mic now because it's raining so hard. I've parked under a tree so you guys can hear me. I know that I've beat this like a dead horse, and I've talked about what's going to happen to all this stuff in multiple other videos if you followed the channel. Let me leave you guys with one thing. If you own a WRX or you're thinking about buying one, let me give you one piece of important information and why you should care about this and follow it and what it's going to do to your current WRX. If this keeps happening, your ability to buy parts is going to get harder and harder. Companies are going to stock parts less and less. So if you've thought about modifying your car, if you want to modify your car, if you're waiting for a part, all I have to say is if you don't think about getting it sooner rather than later, you might have as much as a 6 to 10 month wait. Just as a reminder, guys, when you hear about things going back ordered, they're not back ordered for a couple weeks. Companies can take up to a year to produce more of them, and there's less incentive to have millions of dollars sitting on shelves when there's not a whole lot of certainty that there's going to be a lot of cars buying them. My one recommendation is if you're on the fence about buying parts or tuning your car or doing something that involves buying parts, this is your reminder that your opportunity to do it might get lower and lower and lower. And I just would highly recommend considering pulling the trigger because they're available now. Can't promise that they'll be available later. This isn't a plug for any businesses. This is just general forewarning about what might happen. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news here. Hopefully more sell. And if you guys are considering one, now is definitely the time to buy a car or a WRX because they're probably cheaper than they've ever been because it's impossible to sell them. And the rain literally just stopped and it's starting to get sunny out again. Weather is so crazy. I'll see you guys in the next video.